Howdy y'all, it's Chris with Shelf Fitness, favorite trainer of the belt buckle. Today we're going to go over the infraspinatus muscle, and we have Chelsea to help us out. She's one of the trainers here at Shelf Fitness. Before we get into this, make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube. If you want to become a trainer, August 12th here in Los Angeles, September 10th in La Jolla, San Diego. So the infraspinatus, I call this sucker the twin, because you remember, it's one of the rotator cuff muscles.
Yes.
What's the little acronym for the rotator cuff?
Sits.
S-I-T-S. So we got the supra, superior, and the infra is below. You have the teres minor, subscapularis. So these are four. This is one of the four rotator cuff muscles. Remember, 17 muscles of the shoulder. We're going to start with the origin. So the origin of the infraspinatus is going to be the infraspinous fossa. So that's this area right here that we're going to palpate on Chelsea here in a second. So this flat area, it's where that muscle begins, and it's going to insert on the greater tubercle. So remember our shoulder anatomy, got the humerus, clavicle, and the scapula. So you have a larger little ridge on the humerus, which is the greater tubercle, and you have a smaller one, and you have the bicipital groove. It's like two notches, one's a little higher, this is the greater. So the infraspinatus is going to come across and insert right into that part of the bone. The action, so I call it the twins, is because the infra does the same thing as the teres minor, which is also a rotator cuff muscle. The action is external rotation, coming away, and then extension, coming back. So we don't really go to the gym like, oh, I'm going to crush infraspinatus today, but what we can do is the rotator cuff stabilize the glenohumeral joint. Humerus, glenoid of the scapula. What the rotator cuff muscles do is they just keep it centrated right on that fossa. So you'll see very commonly people go to, back in the 80s, they would do these external and internal rotations for the rotator cuff. And you still see it in the gym all the time. People grab a band, weights, working my rotator cuff. Well, you're externally and internally rotating, sure, you are working them, but why not do the real job of those muscles, which is to stabilize? Get a kettlebell and press it straight up. So then you have stabilization externally, or if you're a trainer working with my client, put your hand out like that, and you have them press, and you just give little perturbation. So press up. And so then she has to stabilize against resistance, which is far superior than doing these external and internal rotation exercises. Get a band and do something. So the action, external rotation, extension, the average person, we were just talking about this before class, is going to be in this position, so the infra is really getting stretched. You're going to find a lot of sensitivity on that posterior side. Now, Chelsea does have some scapped winging, so let's face this way. And you can just kind of see, I was talking about this in our serratus anterior video prior, she does have a little bit of, and be careful. This is what I hate about trainers today. They learn a term, someone walks by, and they go, oh, excuse me, you have scapped winging. And she's like, what the hell? Like, am I like a mutant? That doesn't sound great. Don't diagnose people with this stuff. Like, you have scapped winging, you're going to hell. Oh. It doesn't matter. Is your let's face the camera. Do you have shoulder pain anytime?
Sometimes under like my left shoulder blade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if she were to tell me that during an assessment, then I would show her some stuff that would activate her serratus muscles. Maybe she has some infraspinatus tightness or overactivity in there that we could address, but we don't need to label her as a mutant by saying she has scapped winging. So let's identify where the infraspinatus is. And so when you put your hand behind your back, you're going to see it wing out like that. So this allows me to find that this is the medial border. Here's the infra angle, I think I screwed that one up. The infra angle of the scapula. Let's go back here. So on just right superior to that is going to be where the origination of the infraspinatus is. And so what I like to do is, the purpose of this isn't to give people pain, but we just want to calm down this muscle, and we want to activate her serratus. So if you look at that last video, one of the things the serratus does is it's going to protract, but it also force exhalation. So when I brace her, I'm going to always ask a client before you touch them, and don't ever do anything that's too much. The purpose of this isn't to make them pass out. You just give a little bit of pressure. So I'm going to brace right here. I'm going to give a little bit of pressure, and just breathe out.
Oh my God.
And it's very sensitive. Big deep breath. So what we're doing is we're calming down the infraspinatus, activating the serratus muscles. And I might move to another spot. Is this the shoulder that does bother you?
No.
No, so it's the other one. So this is the one that's not even giving her problems, but we're working on the infra because it's commonly stretched too much because we're here, anteriorly tilted, so that muscle is getting a lot of a stretch. So think about when you sat down in an airplane or a car for a long period, you come out and you're kind of stiff and it feels weird. So that muscle is just getting constantly stretched and the serratus isn't working as well. So then what we can do is we can calm it down, activate with some breathing drills. For her, we would do that. For the serratus, we would do the foam roller exercise. But the infraspinatus is one of the rotator cuff muscles. Originates on that fossa. It's going to come back onto the greater tubercle, the humerus. The actions are to extend, externally rotate. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube. Thank you, Chelsea.
You're welcome.
Perfect.